Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland. Well, it's finally happened. The long-watched-for day is breaking, as in Theresa May is announcing that she is stepping down as Prime Minister, because although she campaigned for Remain, she has never wavered in her conviction that Brexit must be implemented, since that was the decision in 2016 in the referendum. So twice her proposed agreement with the European Union has been voted down by the House of Commons, and she's making a third attempt very soon. The European Union gave that last extension, could be 2 weeks, 2 months before Brexit. But Theresa May has announced she is stepping down as Prime Minister. Exactly when, we don't know. Only yesterday night she addressed the 1922 committee. That is a committee for backbench Conservative MPs. So what's a backbencher? That is a member of Parliament who is not a minister or a shadow minister, right? So you may know the House of Commons, it's got the benches in tiers going up higher and higher and higher. And oddly, the higher status people sit at the front, sit at the lowest level, one side Conservative, obviously across the aisle, the lowest level of the Labour or Liberal Democrats. They're the most senior MPs if you follow. The ones who are on the front bench are the cabinet ministers or the shadow cabinet ministers. So backbenchers, everybody else. Now, some of them are relatively junior MPs. Some of them are sort of superannuated MPs, have been cabinet ministers, but are now on the backbenches, more or less waiting for retirement. But they include people like Boris Johnson, a big beast if ever there was one. And obviously, he sensed an opportunity. He's always had his eye on the pole position. So, will she get her third deal through? It's looking difficult, but they voted through about 8 different options to see what would be most acceptable, a Norway style deal or stay in the customs union, some kind of agreement. The other point is that the European Union will run out of patience. And if nothing is decided after this 2-month extension, I think that will be it, even though it's going to blow a hole in their budget. There is a group called Just Leave, so the United Kingdom should leave tomorrow, 29th of March, that's it, no agreement, and sort it out later. And as Theresa May has warned people, if an agreement is not made, then the UK might leave without an agreement. But some of the Brexiteers are worried that if the UK doesn't make an agreement, then it won't leave at all, because Parliament will vote to cancel Article 50 to keep the UK back in. Now, Donald Tusk has made a last appeal to the UK. Would you, at the 11th hour, like to change your mind? And obviously some Remainers are agitating for that. The best deal is the deal we already have, so we hear. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is the idol of the loon tendency within the Conservatives, he has softened his stance. And previously he was contemptuously rejecting all Mrs May's proposals. But he has softened his stance, saying that half a loaf is better than no loaf at all. Rees-Mogg is very sympathetic to the DUP. The DUP, which is almost exclusively Protestant. Rees-Mogg is a Catholic, so don't let it be said that the DUP is anti-Catholic. So when Theresa May left this 1922 committee meeting, which wasn't filmed, but the whole story leaked out, Boris Johnson was beaming from ear to ear. Why was he wreathed in smiles? Well, he thinks he's going to have a second bite of the cherry. Remember, in 2016, David Cameron announced he was stepping down as Prime Minister, and several Tory MPs put their hat into the ring. One of them was Boris Johnson, who was dramatically poignarded in the back by Michael Gove. Bojo, he could actually still have gone for the leadership and should have, but he bottled it. But anyway, he thinks he's been afforded a second chance. I think his stock is low. Many people think he's completely opportunistic. His time has come and gone. He's maybe perhaps even too old, and all the rest of it, and seem to be entirely actuated by self-interest, completely egotistical, a bit too much of an intellectual trump. So I don't think he's going to get it, unfortunately, even though he had so much of the gaiety of the nation. So Theresa May's days are numbered. More or less, as soon as the UK is out of the European Union, she will be retiring, and then there'll be a tussle amongst the Tory leadership. I think she's right to stay on until such time as the United Kingdom's actually left. The UK does not need this kind of squabble right now. That would just complicate and delay matters even further. So she was held below the waterline from December, really, when she suffered a few massive defeats. There was a vote of no confidence in the government, which she survived quite comfortably. There was a vote by her own party to boot her out, which she survived, not as comfortably as I would have thought. About 65% of people voting against her. And that December 2018 vote meant that they couldn't trigger another leadership contest for another 12 months. But her authority was fatally undermined. So it's time to start assessing what Theresa May's legacy is going to be. She became Prime Minister in July 2016, the second woman ever to be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So really, Brexit will be written on her gravestone, whether it was good or bad. I mean, obviously remains to be seen. And in some ways, that she inherited a golden legacy because austerity was being eased off. The economy was growing steadily. There have been some wobbles right after the Brexit vote. So that's continued quite well. The NHS has run into difficulty. Crime has started to rise. In 1994, crime started to fall and fall and fall and fall, right until Theresa May came in as Home Secretary shortly after 2010 and began cutting police numbers, and crime started rising again. And obviously there's been so much focus on Operation U-Tree, on terrorist attacks. And terrorist attacks are very, very rare, actually kill very few people. I know there's a horrific one which killed quite a few people in Manchester, but if you average it out over the years, it is not many. Maybe 10 a year, which obviously is ghastly, as rather it was zero. But there's something like 600 murders a year in the United Kingdom. So an inordinate amount of police resources are put into that, which takes the police's eye off ordinary crime. So there have been some failings. The NHS is not doing as well as it should, likewise schooling. So as for Brexit, could it have been handled much better? Yes, possibly. She made the fateful decision in March 2017 to call a snap election. There didn't need to be an election for another 2 years, but the tea leaves seem to be looking really good. Everyone prognosticated that she would be returned with a thumping majority. It looked like an even bigger victory than 1983. Labour was languishing in the polls. Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the opposition, was detested by large swathes of the country. The Liberal Democrats had a leader who was completely ineffectual, and May seemed to connect. She's unshowy, she's an everywoman, she's a bit bland, a good manager of the shop. There was really nothing to hold against her. Fairly successful, still a bit of a honeymoon as a new Prime Minister. Go for it, despite having said that she wouldn't do. Anyway, she managed to almost snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by running the most leaden-footed campaign of modern times, strong and stable. That was her slogan, which obviously thrown back at her with scorn these days. So a not very successful Prime Minister. As for the EU, she could have sorted out exactly what her position was before triggering Article 50 in March 2017. Now, the EU said we refuse to negotiate until that happens. The clock started ticking. Now, there was some stonewalling from the EU, and partly some people in the UK were being unreasonable. Some of the Remain fanatics who would do everything they could to cut her off at the knees to try and prevent it happening. Some of the real hardline Brexiteers for whom no agreement would be good enough. They're going to vote no to absolutely anything, it seems to me, anything that the EU would agree. In the middle were people of more moderate opinion. Reluctant leavers like May, who voted Remain but said, okay, I will carry out the decision of the people. She's asked repeatedly if she believes in Brexit, and she always says that, I will carry out the will of the people. So she obviously doesn't think Brexit is a good idea. So it could have been handled a bit better. I don't think it was ever going to be perfect. And obviously the European Union didn't want to go too easy on the United Kingdom, because that would cost them, and they felt that if the United Kingdom is seen to flourish as a result of Brexit, then more member states will wish to emulate that. So we must make an example of them. So who's going to be the next leader of the Conservative Party and indeed the next Prime Minister? My hunch is Sajid Javid. A lot of people will go for it. Boris Johnson, Michael Gove, Liam Fox, Andrea Leadsom. I don't think Rees-Mogg's going to. He's always ruled himself out. Even he knows he's considered too anachronistic to go for it. Stephen Crabb, Dominic Raab, Amber Rudd, Liz Truss. These are some of the other names mentioned. So Bojo, for reasons I've already adumbrated, I don't think he's going to get it. Michael Gove, he's just dislikable and a bit oleaginous. So I don't think large numbers of people would like him. Dr. Fox, he's actually not even that well known these days. He hadn't had a distinguished cabinet career. I mean, he's back in the cabinet recently. Got some sort of chance. Andrea Leadsom, remember, she was standing against Theresa May last time, and she cut her own throat with some of her remarks about how Theresa May doesn't really care about the country because she doesn't have children, and then backtracked on that. Andrea Leadsom was outraged that the media quoted her accurately. Stephen Crabb performed very poorly in the last leadership election. He's virtually unknown, so I don't think he's got a hope. Dominic Raab, not that much better known, and I don't think would really connect. It wouldn't be terrible. Amber Rudd, she's a bit more credible. The only thing is, obviously she resigned over Windrush immigration scandal, British citizens deported from their own country, shockingly. And the other thing is, her seat is really got a really wafer-thin majority, could easily be decapitated at the next election. So that's militating against her. So there we have it. Sajid Javid has got this inspiring life story. You know, he came from a working class British Pakistani family and just did well in his education, worked for Deutsche Bank, but became a multimillionaire. He's married to a white woman. He's not insular with his own community, and that's that. And he's a nominal Muslim. He completely embraces modernity, and he would really put pay to the idea that the Conservatives are racist. So, and he's also been a very safe pair of hands as a cabinet minister. So that's my guess who's going to come next.